this is, I think, the fun part of where we begin to really start looking at strategies and how it is that companies actually apply strategies with respect to intellectual property. So keep in mind at this point we've done an overview of many of the key areas of intellectual property, patents, copyrights, trademarks, and trade secrets. Now we'll start to take a little bit look as to how it is that companies can actually use these as actual assets within the company. Now I would indicate at the outset that my expertise is particularly with respect to patents. I'm a patent attorney. So much of my focus with respect to use of IP is in that context. How it is that patents are used, how it is that patents are actually monetized, things of that nature. So modules 6 and 7 will focus primarily on that. But I do want you to recognize that although a lot of my presentation focuses on patents, that there is an equally compelling market even for trademarks and copyrights. Trade secrets is a whole field by itself that often doesn't get all the glory of its other intellectual property siblings. But the reality is that each of these can play a different role in the valuation and building up of companies. So just want you to be aware of that as we proceed forward with our discussion. Now I'm in the textbook on page 250. This was a short article on the benefits or some of the benefits of intellectual property. The question that I asked there is, what do you think is often the most important to a CEO and to an investor? Now, from an investment point of view, what they are often looking at is, what is the potential to get back that which I'm putting in? So from that point of view, it can add to the company's valuation, and that's something that investors will look at. What is the value of the patents in relation to the company and in relation to the market as a whole? So they are often looking at it from the point of view of, one, what is the monetary amount of, or the monetary effect of what's actually going into the country or company. And secondly, the investor will be looking at how strong is that company with respect to the market as far as protecting its technology. So they don't want to invest in a company that literally has already deeded all of its rights to another company. Or on the other hand, they may not be interested in investing where, for example, that company only has a few patents in this space that is crowded by many other companies with much more potentially compelling and novel type inventions. Now, from the CEO's perspective, in the short term, they want to ensure that their inventions are not ripped off, that they can really make sure that they are protecting the company from that point of view. And most startups and most companies that I work with, especially as they are starting out, are primarily looking at it from that point of view, protection. As time goes on, and as the company becomes more established, the perspective of the CEO may change, where it's no longer as focused on protection, although that's something that they will still consider. They will begin to look at it as a potential source of profit. How can we use patents to create new revenue streams for the company? So that's something that usually occurs a few years down the line when the company actually does have more of a foothold in the market and they can actually do something based off of that. So as far as the overview, what we will discuss in Module 6, first we'll look at just a brief introduction as to some of the aspects of how it is that patents are used. And I would indicate that from here all the way until the end of the course, we'll be primarily looking at example after example after example, because how these examples really play, how one company uses its IP may be different than another company. And in particular, when we talk about patent strategies are a nice concept, but how it is that they're actually applied by a company depends on the size of the company and its life cycle and where it is at its life cycle, how saturated the market is, things of that nature. So we'll be looking at essentially the 4 life cycles of a patent, from a startup to becoming established with a small medium business size, to a more established corporation, all the way to, let's assume that it's an exiting company, which can include those that are going through bankruptcy, as well as those that are potentially being bought out. So it's both a sad or a happy type ending there. So as far as overview, I have a few videos here that kind of give you a little sense as to how it is patents can and are being used.
Nikola is suing Tesla. No, the famed inventor of alternating current didn't come back from the dead with dueling personalities. This is two forward-thinking automakers trading legal barbs. The lawsuit revolves around the company's competing semi-tractor trailer designs. Nikola debuted its hydrogen fuel cell-powered semi a full year before Tesla showed off its electric version, the Semi. As a result, Nikola thinks Tesla has lifted some of its design ideas. Nikola Motors claims that Tesla has infringed on its patents for a wraparound windshield, overall cab design, and a mid-entry door. The company alleges that because the two trucks look so similar, any bad press that Tesla gets will cause people to think Nikola is the one at fault. So, logically, it's suing Tesla for $2 billion. That's billion with a B. The company also claims that Tesla doesn't hold any design patents for its truck and alleges that someone from Tesla attempted to poach a Nikola employee. Now, looking at the two trucks side by side, they do share some similarities, but whether or not it constitutes infringement is up for a judge to decide. Both parties maintain that they're in the right. We'll see you tomorrow with more Engadget Today.
So that was one example where Nikola Motor Company was suing Tesla over the design of its cabs. Now, we have seen over the past 10 years or so this emerging rise of using design patents for the basis of infringement. Prior to that time frame, you really didn't see too much of that. And the reason why is the damages model was not as clear. How do you attribute the value of a design component within a device? It's a little bit harder. If there's an express functionality, if you're paying for a specific, let's say, Wi-Fi chip, you know how much that is going into the cost of the device itself, and you can do a cost breakdown as this is, 1% of the value of the smartphone, which then allows you to have a very concrete model for assessing damages. For the design, it gets a little bit more complicated. We saw that in the Samsung v. Apple case. We're seeing it here, but it's not something that you typically see a whole lot of. But over the last 10 years, there's been this emerging rise of using design patents as the basis for infringement.
Samsung Electronics has inked a patent cross-licensing deal with Cisco Systems, a worldwide leader in networking, in a bid to buy both firms to minimize legal disputes and focus on innovation. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics has signed a 10-year patent cross-licensing deal with Cisco Systems. The deal comes days after similar agreements between Samsung and Google and another between Cisco and Google. The deals are expected to give the firms more room to innovate without worrying about legal disputes over intellectual property. Samsung went to court 38 times last year for patent disputes, and its legal battle with Apple that spans more than 10 countries is dragging into its third year. Samsung has one of the largest numbers of patents in the world with around 100,000, while Cisco has around 9,700 and Google 50,000. Local media outlets in Korea say Samsung's recent cross-licensing deal will give Samsung and Cisco time to prepare for the latest trend in the tech world, the Internet of Things, in which products ranging from cars to household goods are connected to the Internet or electronic devices. Cisco is one of the leading companies in the Internet of Things. John Chambers, Cisco's chairman and CEO, said last month during his keynote at the Consumer Electronics Show, the Internet of Everything will forever change our daily lives. For businesses, Chambers said it would be a $19 trillion opportunity. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics has inked a patent cross-licensing deal with Cisco.
So one of the interesting things about this brief news clip is that it showed that there was a cross-licensing type agreement between Samsung and Cisco. Now, typically under the normal arrangement, you may get some type of a cross-licensing deal that is the result of litigation. So Samsung sues Cisco or vice versa, and as a result of that, part of the settlement may be, okay, why don't we just do a cross-licensing where I license some of my patents to you and you license some of your patents to me, and it can be a joint type resolution. Another instance is you might have a company that is more active in actually trying to license its portfolio. So that Samsung, for example, may approach Cisco out of court and simply indicate, hey, we have a portfolio and wink, wink, it is very similar to some of the products that you are creating. In other words, you need to either take a license or we will go ahead and sue you. Now, under that type of arrangement, what often will occur is that Cisco in response may say, oh, thank you for bringing this to our attention, but just so you're aware, we looked at our portfolio and there is relevancy, wink, wink, between our portfolio and some of your products. So it becomes this balancing test as to who has the more convincing argument and who needs to owe more to the other side. But under that type of arrangement as well, often there's a cross-license type agreement.
In Money Watch, Apple has agreed to pay Qualcomm an undisclosed amount of money after a years-long legal battle. The rift revolved around a royalty dispute over Qualcomm's premium modem chips. The settlement included an undisclosed payout from Apple to the chipmaker and could pave the way towards a 5G iPhone.
And the merger between T-Mobile and Sprint might be in danger of falling through, according to the Wall Street.
So again, you saw there that the result of this ongoing litigation was some type of a patent agreement. So there was an agreement that one was both conveying a license to specific patents, and then two, there was this obligation that Apple would buy specific Qualcomm chips in the future as well. So, and again, that was the result of a specific litigation that was going on. Now, this last example is a little bit different, and I'll explain it more after the first introduction of this video, and then I'll stop in.
Here in Tokyo sits the headquarters of Japanese massive conglomerate Softbank. It started as a software distributor, grew into a telecom giant, and now spans many different industries, pouring billions of dollars into the likes of Alibaba, Uber, and WeWork. Its founder and CEO meets with Donald Trump and forms business deals with Saudi Arabia's royal family. And yet, it's a company you may know little about. Softbank is ranked number 38 on Forbes' list of world's biggest public companies. That's a few slots higher than General Motors and IBM, and far ahead of Amazon, Coca-Cola, and Walt Disney. Its business dealings really know no limits. They include telecommunications, e-commerce, finance, technology services, semiconductor design, media and marketing, a baseball team, and even a robot. This is Pepper. It's a humanoid robot.
Now I'll stop it there. You saw all the different markets that SoftBank in particular has been getting involved in. And the one there that I didn't necessarily see was investments with IP. And that is something that SoftBank is in fact very much known for as well. I think in the last year or two, so we're in 2019 right now, sometime I believe in 2018, SoftBank acquired a specific firm that's called Fortress Investments. Now, Fortress Investments is known for its patent licensing, patent selling type activity. And so what SoftBank was doing here was looking actively for opportunities to buy IP to then be in a position where they can then assert rights to the IP. So it's a little bit of a different approach, but suffice it to say, a lot of these very tech type minded companies are pouring in hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into IP for purposes of asserting rights there too.